Hermleigh Waterworks. Okay, so, there's a system. It's been in place, but it hasn't worked for years. Do you know which one it is inside that little building? This basically contacts, lets you know if there's high water, low water, no water, pumps quit working, if the,
Staying up. Talking about standpipe water level.
yeah, standpipe water level and the little tank. Also, it tells you if that level is dry. It's about 25,000. We're still trying to get a fix on the price. He won't give us a fix on the price, but it
I do.
it's you do.
I went back and looked at last time, and I'm like, yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
I can do it from a.
Hop along. I mean, roll along.
My driver, not a good driver.
And a mule and
Fire my
that
driver.
one time.
There you are.
Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Crazy morning. Okay.
And we are live.
Okay.
So, I believe, yeah. All right. So in the last several months, we've had those situations where we've had low level, where the water level in the standpipe was at 60 feet. And Gary didn't realize until he got out there. Someone actually called him and said, "We have no water pressure." And so he's had another incident, and I asked him to come this morning, but they're working on a leak out there. And so this would basically let Gary know if there was an issue. My main concern is that if there is ever a fire out there and lightning struck just right and that standpipe was empty and we had a pump down or a well down or anything like that, that house would burn to the ground because there'd be no water pressure because Gary didn't know. So that's what that really is all about is an alarm system that was there before to get it working again. It's not a new alarm system. It's the same alarm system, updating it and getting it to where it will let Gary know that something's going on out there. It sends different alarms for different things. So that's what that's all about.
Well, have we ever bought any equipment to work with it out there? Like somebody beside the shovel?
What kind of equipment? Like a
Dig a
backhoe?
hole to patch a,
No, sir. No, sir. I haven't bought a backhoe or anything out there.
well, who's
We've
fixing
looked
all
at
this
it,
stuff
but-
every once in a while?
I'm sorry.
Who's fixing it then every once in a while? We ain't having no leaks?
We are having leaks, but he's rented a backhoe before. He's gotten assistance from the city, and he's borrowed equipment from the park and whatnot. So he needs a backhoe. He needs something out there.
I think that's where we ought to start first.
Well, I would love to, but my thought is on this alarm system, he's had situations where the water's been so low that they've had no pressure out there whatsoever. I would be afraid that if they had a grass fire and they needed water, right now, especially this time of year, if they had a grass fire or even a house fire, they wouldn't be able to get any water out of the system because it was so low that it wasn't able to get a hold of it. So I would rather do, personally, this is just me, but I would think that the alarm system is a higher priority than a backhoe.
Well, I don't know that you can go at it like that. You can if you want to, but to me, you need to have something to work with, and then you can go on up from that and fix what you need as you go or something. But sitting around here, I don't like the idea of it. That Snyder's coming out here and working on the dang deal. I don't think that is kosher at all, as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
And
I understand that.
he, you can keep picking, well, next time we need to fix this over here, and we still ain't got no equipment, we're still, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And, again, that's just not, if we, I'm one to say that if I've understood from a couple of folks that thing could be sold. And I'm thinking that's the people that would fix it up like it needs to be fixed up, because unless I misunderstood all the deal, that's the kind of business they was in anyway.
Okay, that hadn't been brought to the table yet, so that's not on the agenda, that's not really something.
Well, yeah, we can stick that in your ear, I guess, because, I mean, I can't, when you piecemeal stuff, that's what you run into. In other words, there's a dozen ways to get around to do something right. And, you know, what's gonna be next fall part on it? I want the folks to have good water, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I've got nothing wrong with it, but they need to have somebody that can do that, that's in that business, instead of a one-horse deal like we seem to be having right here. We can't even get the equipment to fix stuff that we need, from the word go, and we haven't tried it, don't look like. And, you know, it's, who's to say what goes down next?
What happened to the lawn?
It just, it stopped working at some point, and it never was repaired.
Definitely don't have that alarm system.
Yeah, and it was put in about the nineties, and it's nineties technology, but they can still use that technology. So it just never was updated.
As far as the backhoe, I don't go that backhoe. The hydrovac.
That would be good, that would be good. I'm just talking about something maybe we could afford right now.
No, hydrovac was in the budget for this year, and Parks were working on getting that, and they were gonna share it, use it, split it between, the problem was that COVID hit, and they hadn't been able, last I heard about a month ago, they hadn't been able to get it yet. They were working on getting it, but they hadn't got it yet. So I'll ask Larry today what the status is on that. So they can use that, but also Gary's a one-man crew out there, so he's gotta have some help on some of that stuff on occasion. So, and he has had help from, the guys at the parks. So, he has done that. But then, once you hydrovac it all out, then you gotta put it back in.
Yeah.
So you don't have a hole in it.
We could come over for a while.
And help out with it.
Hydrovac, it don't take but a half a bucket full.
Right.
It was like in the hole.
Yeah.
Was it new hydrovac?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it wasn't gonna be a huge one, it was gonna be one they could pull by in the truck.
Yeah.
But it would be, it'd be sufficient for what they need.
Them in the parks, both.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, my concern with the whole deal is the money. Because the basic water bill out there is the minimum, which is $35, I believe. I want them people to have water too. But I also know that sooner or later, their rates are either gonna have to go up, because at the rate we're spending money, Hermleigh Water Works cannot support it
Sure.
financially,
Mhm.
okay? And at that point, you either go up on water rates or you tax for it.
Mhm.
And the only people that you could probably tax would be the people getting the water. Because if you try to tax people in Scurry County for it that's not using it, that's going to be another issue in itself. Okay? That's my deal. Because at the rate the money's being spent, a year, 18 months, it'll be broke. So then what do we do?
That's a possibility. You may have to go up on the rates again. It's something that we definitely need to look at.
Well, excuse me there, just butting in a second. I thought I noticed that there was still quite a few that don't pay their bill or hasn't paid their bill.
There is some, and it's in the last few months, and we suspended payments because of all of this, but they are required to make their payment at the end of this month and get that caught up.
How long you gonna give them a certain length of?
Yes, sir, they have, how many days is it? I think they have until the first to make the payment, I believe. I think they've got 30 days. So they weren't doing cutoffs until this July, bill. And so on the July bill, they were told they need to make the payments or they could face cutoffs. So, and it's typically not, so if you miss this July payment, they're gonna cut you off at the end of the month. It's typically, you missed the July payment, you missed the August payment, they're gonna cut you off at the end of August, that type of situation.
I know they'll cut you off out here.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, to me, that's only right.
Mhm.
I mean, it's, to keep it up in good shape,
Yeah, you gotta make the payments.
you gotta make your payments.
I agree.
And, you know, you can't, and I know they're not a big outfit as this out here,
Mhm.
probably. I'm sure they're not. But, and I know folks need help. I'm not trying to be a butthole, but, you know, it's, something like that, is kind of like a 1935 tractor.
Mhm.
It'll eat you up, you know, and if you don't, and I see things that, or I don't see things, I hear things that needs to sound like to me, they, you know, they've got if they put it on there, it had a job to do if it was supposed to ring a bell or something like that. I understand all that, but, you know, when you get something that ain't never been run right, as far as I can tell, and you know, it's not its fault. But it just, it should have had more attention. Now then, we're the ones sitting here trying to figure out why and how. Of course, I guess that's life. But, you know, I just, I don't know. I know it's a mess.
And when did you say that alarm system
About 25,000. It's actually gonna, I think, gonna end up being less than that. There are some things that have had to have been done before, that go along with that. And it's, the gauges that are required by TCQ for the tanks, standpipe in the tank, those have already been, installed. And there's a couple other little things. So it's not gonna be quite 25,000, but 25,000 would cover the remainder of it. And
Will they be hooked up to soda water,
Sweetwater,
like chlorine too?
I don't know. Uh,
Or they-
because they have to bring their test over there.
Right.
Yeah, I think they would still be required to bring that over, bring the samples over there.
Well, I mean, on the chlorine is,
Yeah, Gary would get that, and I don't know if, I guess we could set it up to where Sweetwater would get that also, but, yeah, that would be another one of the alarms, is when the chlorine's low, Gary would get that information.
Judge, this is a preliminary thing, I mean, until we get our certified numbers and everything, so I don't see any problem with putting it in the budget this time, doesn't mean it can't be taken out.
Right.
And if we wanna discuss other things in the future, we can you put them on the agenda and have a general discussion about backhoes and hydrovacs and whatever.
Mhm.
It appears to me like what's on the agenda is whether or not we want to consider replacing an alarm at Hermleigh Waterworks, and so I'll make a motion that we put it in the budget, and then we can take it back out. We've got till the last day before we set the rate to do that, and we can come back in and talk about anything we want to that's put on the agenda in the future. So I make that motion that we go ahead and put it in the budget until we see what we have.
Is there a second?
I'm second.
Okay, all in favor of leaving it in the agenda for now? In the budget for now, all opposed? Okay. All right, discuss and consider a water line extension for property ID 14127. And I've got that information down in my office, the address and all, but at the time when I put this together, all I had was a property ID number, but I've got the contact information and all. And if you'll look at that map that I gave you, that shows you where the property is. And it shows how far to any intersection that has a water line, it is. It's 425 feet. In our water regulations, new service installation is a fee of $350. It's the water meter deposit $50, installation of $100, tap to connect to service main $200. That doesn't cover the tap materials, much less that far of an extension. That's nearly 400. It's 425, 430 feet on the distances, and locally here in town, it's $26.50 a foot to install a 1-inch line, and it's $32.50 a foot for a 2-inch line. That is, when I figured it out the other day at 500 feet, it was $13,000 for the 1-inch line. So that's pretty pricey. I don't think that taxpayers or the community should have to pay $13,000 for one place to get water. And it's not gonna be 13,000, it would actually probably be closer to 11,000 as far as the work and all of that. There is a specification in our, regulations that shows that, someone outside of the Hermleigh Township, which this is actually inside, someone outside the Hermleigh Township could install their own line, using our specifications, which are listed at their own cost. We would put the, meter in and all of that, but they would, and we would tap the line, but they would install the water line at our specifications from that point all the way to their location. Of course, they're having to dig 16 inches deep, and they're having to get in our right of ways or in our roads to do that if they're doing it inside Hermleigh Township. That is a concern to me. Because once they get the line to their property, not just anybody in general, why are they gonna be too concerned about whether they tore up our right of way or our road to the water line to them?
That's in the specifications, you don't furnish them water until they fix it. But still,
Right.
I'm agreeing with you. I think that's a lot of what's wrong with the, fund, is that constantly, doing things for those that are wanting meters and lines and they turn out either they live there for 6 months and move, or it's just for a single house and use very little water, and there's no way to continue to do those kind of things and keep a solvent Hermleigh water works.
Sure.
What happened to the water that was there?
It's an old galvanized line, and it hasn't been in service for many years. It was disconnected at one point when the new lines were put in the last time. And so, from that point on, it's galvanized, and you know what galvanized does when it's sitting there. It's old, it's corroded, it's not any good. And so,
What is the minimum that they can use, that they're charged on?
minimum what?
Water, that's what we're talking about, water.
It's
32.
32 a month.
I thought it was 35.
35. Yeah, okay, 35.
Yeah.
35 a month.
Yeah.
And how much water is that? Got any idea?
I don't remember. You remember how many gallons it was,
I think it's
Terry?
1,000 gallons, I think. Let me look here, it's in here. Two thousand gallons, yeah, 550 for each 1,000 gallons after. So, and what we're looking at is, it's not gonna be a lot of water. You can pay the minimum
Mhm.
on that.
And even at that, a 1-inch line, 500 foot,
Yeah, he's gonna have no pressure
there's not
whatsoever.
gonna be nothing at the end of the,
You know, I'm on, Rotan, have been for 30 years until it just drilled the water well. And they set a meter by their tap,
Mhm.
and you run it.
route.
And I'm 1,000 feet from that tap, but that's all they do. And that's all they can afford to do.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah.
And that's really the only thing we can afford to do going forward, or like I say, we're gonna be taxing those people for even more for the water that they use to have this, to keep this thing going.
Right,
I just don't see that we continue to give a free service to a customer that, Hermleigh Waterworks, that's just never gonna pay.
sure. Yeah, we'll never get money back out of that at $35 a month.
I agree.
I
I think you only get so long. And then
Sure.
God bless you. And go on about our business.
Yeah.
And then I remember Jim talking about, there was some lady, bless her heart, that when she turned her water on, it come out of every corner in that, little trailer house she is,
Mhm.
you know. So you know she couldn't pay for that.
Right, you got a plumbing to fix all of those.
Yeah.
Right.
And, and it's just, it's hard to be a rump, but sometimes you've got to, or if you don't, you end up living just like that, you know, if you don't watch it,
Yeah.
because you can't fix nothing.
Right.
Well, it's business, and
It is.
right or wrong,
Yeah.
it's business, so, we can't afford to do that. Hermleigh Waterworks can't afford to do that.
No.
We got some lines where that, this stuff we was talking about comes from the meter. Goes a block over there and into that house. That was on them,
Mhm.
on the meter. Yeah. So,
Yeah, that's the way most of them are, you know, whatever, and
Yeah.
city, I don't care who it is, well, you know that.
Yeah.
But it's your responsibility from the meter to house, shop, whatever. But it has to be done to their specifications if you do that,
Absolutely.
so.
Well, can you imagine if every meter was set at our tap and had been all this time, and then wherever they have to run it from, and whatever size line they had to run,
Mhm.
how solvent that we would be.
Yeah.
And meter deposits and all the things go with it.
Well, I would suggest if that school wasn't out there, we couldn't afford to have it anyway. You know, it's just, you know, I hadn't been here but 2 years, but I've listened to Jim tell me all about that dang thing. And it's just, I mean, there's not enough glue in the world to put on it to fix it, a cheap way. You can't fix it a cheap way, you still got what you got.
Well, what do y'all think about, we do the cat farm and then he runs it from there?
I think that's the only,
I don't
Feasible.
see another way.
no, I don't either.
I agree with y'all. I just can't see running that much line. I think that would be,
was they gonna come in from the veterinary side or?
I'm not sure exactly. I was hoping Gary would be here, like I said, because he has all the answers to where that line, where the closest line is, and I just went to, on this map, I went to each of the locations that it possibly could be. He was saying it was 500 feet, so I'm not sure where exactly it was coming from.
Well, the original line come from up there by Allsup's.
Right. Yeah, and that's 700 feet.
That really rules that out.
Does that make
Rocky Hill too. It's a bad,
Right.
bad spot to put a water line. Put a water line in there and back there it was sand or something.
Right.
But it-
I guess we just take no action, it's fine with me, or we can,
Well, we probably need a motion on how we're gonna do it, on whether we're gonna go ahead and tap it and, because it doesn't specify inside, our orders or our regulations don't specify inside Hermleigh Township as far as adding that kind of line, so.
and it doesn't even say that a person can supply their own.
It does for, right, for outside, right, but not for inside,
Yeah.
like you're saying.
So either the policy's gonna have to be changed.
Right.
And so that'll have to be another agenda item
Right.
before we can even do that.
But where's go ahead, sorry, Terry.
Oh, that's,
Where's the closest tap?
I don't know for sure. Gary said 500 feet, but I don't know where exactly that
Oh.
is.
And my only concern is if we go to the expense, or Hermleigh Waterworks goes to the expense of putting in a meter and a tap, and this gentleman chooses not to, we spent unneeded money.
and we don't do that until they actually are ready to put their line in and
Right,
and we know it.
right,
Oh, that's happened before.
Yeah.
You're right.
because,
They say, oh, we're gonna leave a mobile home in there, and the mobile home never came.
mhm,
And there was the meter tap for no reason.
yeah, so,
Well, he owns that property there. It's got a building on it.
it's old Chevron service station, isn't it?
Yeah.
Putting up a fence or where.
Right.
Who is this that we're talking about?
His name's Carlos Villalobos, I think it's Villalobos.
Just for a house or a trailer or something?
There's I'm not sure, there's a building there.
Building there?
Yes, sir.
It's an old service station.
Oh, okay.
Well, I would,
Vernon service station, when the bypass come in, he put that service station in over in, somebody, who leads on that thing? Been many years since he's been operable.
That station on that end down there? What's his face on it? Yeah, he died. What's his name? Huh?
He died.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, so do we want to do anything on this one and then come back and change the regulations later to, or do you wanna wait on this one until we have the regulations changed?
well, yeah, we need to change the regulations, but as far as right now, I'm sure this gentleman would like a little guidance as to what's gonna happen
Sure.
or what's not gonna happen. That, you know, he gets his water line put in to wherever the closest tap is, then Hermleigh Waterworks will put in the meter and all that. But we will not put it in prior to him having his line in.
But he can't even do that until we change the regulations.
Okay,
I think we could,
We've got to at least vote on it, but we may disagree that we should even do that because of what the judge brought up.
mhm. Well,
So I think we need to take no action and put it on the next, as soon as we can, put it on the next agenda and change the regulations if we're going to, or we agree to do that. And then tell him what we're going to do.
is that your motion?
Well, I can't make that motion.
It's a no action.
This is a no, your motion to take no action?
Alright. Okay,
Try to get in trouble.
okay, I will, put something together for that, by Friday, I think Friday. We get an agenda put together, we can have it done by, Friday at 10 or 11, one of those.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 11, give us a little time to put the agenda together and get it posted. So that's what we'll do on that. And that way they'll, heads up by the weekend anyway, what you can do.
Yeah. Cause he needs
Wasn't that a Fina station?
Chevron.
Throw that in?
We'll go ahead and adjourn. I don't think we need a vote on adjourning, so.
Okay.
Station.
Chevron station.
Yeah, let's then talk about that for a minute. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Leave that there, go get my stuff for
Thank
Christmas.
you, Melanie.
Sorry about being late.
No worries.